Hi. I'm here to talk about why I like the Dirty Bubble from SpongeBob SquarePants because he seems to be a really unpopular character, which is really surprising to me. Phantom Strider did a ranking of the villains in SpongeBob SquarePants, and the Dirty Bubble was in last place, which was really surprising. And I think that Phantom Strider is incredibly kind and talented, and I have so much respect for him. And I think that his channel's been doing incredibly well, and I want him to have lots of happiness and great stuff. Uh, so when it comes to Dirty Bubble, it's more of a respectfully disagreeing thing. He seems to think that the Dirty Bubble is a boring character, and it seems like he thinks that the Dirty Bubble is one of the least interesting characters in SpongeBob. He did at least compliment the voice actors, which I really respect. I feel like Fam Strider tries so hard to have something kind to say and to be very thoughtful, which I think is fantastic. Uh, but I really don't agree about the Dirty Bubble being a boring villain. I don't think the Dirty Bubble is the best villain in SpongeBob SquarePants. I think a lot of people consider Plankton to be the best villain in SpongeBob, which makes a lot of sense because he's the main villain. I actually think that Man Ray is the best villain in SpongeBob SquarePants. Uh, but I do think the Dirty Bubble is a very solid villain. I think he's one of the better villains. I think that he's very consistently funny when he shows up in an episode. I don't think he's ever boring. He doesn't get a lot of screen time, but I think that he's been able to be an amusing character. Him trapping people in bubbles, I think, is a fun gimmick for the character. And I feel like his gimmick is simple, but I think that it works. And SpongeBob SquarePants is a show that's a lot about being funny. And although Dirty Bubble isn't a very menacing villain, I do think that he is a funny villain that very much fits the tone of SpongeBob. And I do think it's interesting how he can be at least intimidating enough to trap Mermaid Man Barnacle Boy, but he can also be so easily defeated uh, by his bubble being popped. So I do think it's very interesting how he's a character that can be so easily stopped, but can still be somewhat of a cool villain to Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. And Dr. Storm doesn't seem to like the Dirty Bob whole lot. He seems to be very much against the idea of Dirty Bubble being a good character. And Dr. Storm is great. I think that he's one of the funniest people of my generation. I have so much respect for him. I really look up to him a lot. So, like with Fam Strider, it's a respectfully disagreeing sort of thing. Uh, he seems to think that the Dirty Bubble isn't too interesting of a character. Uh, but I really like what the Dirty Bubble brings to SpongeBob. He's a character that hasn't showed up too often, but when he does, I like seeing him. I look forward to his appearances, and he can be a little bit forgettable in the sense that Man Ray is such a great character and is so much fun that when I think of a villain for Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, I think of Man Ray. But I feel like the Dirty Bubble is still a very solid, cool villain, and I think that he has brought a lot of memorable, fun moments to SpongeBob SquarePants, even if he isn't as memorable as some other characters. I do think that he is a character that is incredibly underrated and enjoyable.